Hey guys, Ben from BensGameTime here, and you've already read the title of this video, so let's just get the obvious jokes out of the way. The cake is a lie, companion cube still alive, Valve doesn't make games anymore, Valve can't count to 3, and Half-Life 3 confirmed. Now that we've got all that out of our systems, let's talk about Portal. Portal is Valve's highly acclaimed puzzle shooter game. Originally released in 2007 with a later re-release called Portal Still Alive for the Xbox Live Arcade in 2008, Portal has been one of the most beloved games of all time, as well as one of the most impactful in gaming and internet culture in the last 12 years. Tons of games reference Portal, and plenty of memes spawn from the game, like the before-mentioned cake is a lie and the tragedy of the companion cube. It's been well documented that the origins of Portal come from a student project called Narbacular Drop from the DigiPen Institute of Technology, and that many of those same creators went on to work at Valve on Portal. Fun fact, I actually considered going to DigiPen for college, and boy what a mistake that would have been. Dodged a bullet on that one. Portal has been such an important game over the last decade plus, but I couldn't help but wonder if maybe its importance is a bit overstated. Sure, it's a good game, but how exactly good is it? I mean, I'm no stranger to Portal. I did a playthrough of the game back in 2016 on this channel, but now I think it's time for a more critical look. Portal has you play as Chell, a test subject at Aperture Science who must test their new portal gun technology through a series of 19 test chambers, guided by the robotic voice of GLaDOS with the promise of cake at the end. The gameplay is very simple. There is an orange portal and a blue portal, and they can be placed on any white surface in each chamber. You enter one portal and come out the other. Really simple. How Portal constructs its puzzles for each of the test chambers is where the game gets interesting. The puzzles revolve around navigating the test chambers and interacting with objects in the environment. This can involve moving weighted boxes to press buttons, moving energy balls into receptacles, portaling across dangerous terrain and pits, and using momentum to fling across each level. In terms of obstacles, the game doesn't have many. There are the energy balls that will kill you on contact, and in terms of enemies, there's only the sentry and rocket turrets. These guys only show up occasionally and aren't too difficult to handle, so as far as enemies go, they're pretty weak. The game starts you off slow, with the first few puzzles only allowing you to shoot a blue portal. The game slowly introduces new elements like the energy balls, walls you can't portal onto, and the idea of flinging and conserved momentum, and then finally gives you the ability to shoot both portals. After this, the game really takes off, and the puzzles become increasingly interesting. Puzzle 14, for example, can be completed with a simple fling instead of by solving the intended puzzle. You've got the turret puzzle where you must carefully navigate your environment and strategically use the weighted cubes to take out the turrets, who are just adorable. You've also got the infamous companion cube puzzle where you need to incinerate the cube at the end, which sparks countless memes and attention from the internet. What's interesting about this level is that if you listen to the game's developer commentary, it's revealed that the companion cube was created because playtesters would just leave the normal cube behind when they needed it for the whole level, and incinerating the cube was to teach the player about what to do in the final boss fight. Some people on the internet did what the internet does best and made some fan theories about the companion cube containing the bodies of dead test subjects or Aperture Science employees, but no, it's really as simple as a need to get players to keep the box with them. There's no deeper meaning to it. That'd be like if people tried to find a deeper meaning of me filming these episodes in my basement instead of the living room. With the quarantine, people I live with started working from home, so I started filming in the basement as to not disturb them, and so I could film more often. And honestly, I like it, so I'm gonna keep filming here even after everything goes back to normal. These later puzzles are great, but what's really amazing is the escape sequence of the game. After the 19th test chamber, you realize that there is no cake. A lie, if you will. Instead, your reward is being incinerated, but you can instead portal your way out of the incinerator, and thus begins the escape portion of the game. This is the most interesting part of the game, as now you're adventuring through the facilities of Aperture Science. You get to see some offices, and even catch glimpses of the test chambers you were just in, see the inner workings of the facility, and dodge new obstacles like pistons and the rocket turrets. What's eerie, however, is that you seem to be the only person actually present. The place is abandoned, and GLaDOS' voice becomes distant and echoey. Eventually you make it into GLaDOS' chamber, which leads to a unique boss fight. In this fight, you must remove personality cores off of GLaDOS by using portals to redirect rockets at her, and then throw the cores into an incinerator, much like how you incinerated the companion cube. You need to do this under a time limit, as GLaDOS is slowly filling the room with deadly neurotoxin, which was the reason for the lack of other people in the laboratory. After doing this for each of the cores, the facility breaks apart and you end up in the parking lot of Aperture Science, GLaDOS defeated. This boss fight isn't too complex, but I feel it's just right for a game like Portal. The gameplay of Portal is great. It has a simple concept that slowly builds as you go through the game and culminates in an impressive escape sequence and final fight against GLaDOS. The game is fun throughout and never gets boring, which is impressive. But what's also just as good as the gameplay of Portal is its personality. The atmosphere and personality of Portal is fantastic and adds a lot of charm to the game. First of all, the game has a lot of subtle humor that GLaDOS delivers, which is just hilarious at times.
Unbelievable. You.
Subject name here.
Must be the pride of.
Subject hometown here.
Please note that we have added a consequence for failure. Any contact with the chamber floor will result in an unsatisfactory mark on your official testing record, followed by death. Momentum, a function of mass and velocity, is conserved between portals. In layman's terms, speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
The deadpan delivery for a lot of these jokes just make them better. The humor of this game is just spot on. Also hidden throughout the game are a few secret rooms called Ratman dens. These rooms were created by the Aperture scientist Doug Ratman, who escaped from GLaDOS' original neurotoxin attack, and contain writings on the walls, including that now famous phrase, "The cake is a lie." These rooms are a nice little touch, which help to build the world of Portal. And speaking of world building, the game features nods to the Half-Life series with references to Black Mesa and the offices of Aperture Science, and are name dropped in the Still Alive song. As someone who is a sucker for different games being secretly connected, this is pretty cool. And then there's the Still Alive song, which is such a satisfying reward for completing the game. The song is very catchy, and I find myself occasionally listening to it, even today. All of these things have been brought up plenty of times before by many other people as reasons of why Portal is a great game, and I agree, these details are amazing. But one thing I haven't seen brought up is that Portal as a whole is an eerie game. So eerie, in fact, that I would go as far as to say you could classify it as a horror game. Maybe this is just me, but I've always gotten an unsettling feeling while playing Portal. The game is obviously a puzzle game, no doubt about that, but sometimes it also feels like a horror game. Through the entire game, the only other character you interact with is GLaDOS. There's no one else around except for maybe Ratman, who you never see. As you go through the test chambers, you see the observation rooms where the scientists would be to watch over your progress, yet you never see any scientists. However, the windows aren't exactly clear and have a slight waviness to them, so it's really up in the air if you are being watched or not. That feeling, the uncertainty of whether or not you're being watched, is why the game is eerie. And then during the escape sequence, it's confirmed that you weren't being watched, which makes the pristine nature of the test chambers even more creepy. Again, this is all my opinion and interpretation of the game, but I feel like Portal is just as much a horror game as it is a puzzle game. The atmosphere and non-gameplay elements of Portal are as much of a treat as the gameplay itself, and make the game that much better. Portal is just a great game, but there are two major issues that really bring down my enjoyment of the game, and those are the game's length and the nature of puzzle games. Portal is a short game, and I mean short. It only took me an hour to beat the game, a length of time that's comparable to games on the NES. You can just fly through this game, and this problem is intensified by how Portal spends that hour. Of the 19 test chambers in the main part of the game, 11 of them act like tutorial stages that have short puzzles that slowly add in new concepts. At the end of the 11th test chamber, you get the 2-portal gun, which only leaves just over a handful of real puzzles. By the time you finish the last 8 puzzles, you're already in the endgame of the escape sequence, and that doesn't last all too long either. The game just ends before it really gets going, and it desperately needed more puzzles to solve before the escape sequence. Having more puzzles would have made the escape sequence all that more impactful and given the game its much needed additional length. You could argue that this short length is actually a good thing, as it makes it really easy to pick up and play the game, and Portal is a popular speedrunning game, but with how much of the game is dedicated to tutorial levels, I still would say it needed more. Not only that, but with Portal being a puzzle game, the first playthrough of the game is going to be much different than the rest. In your first playthrough, you need to take the time to solve the puzzles, which will be a little challenging at times. However, once you solve the puzzles the first time, it detriments all the following playthroughs as you already know the solutions. A lot of the challenge goes away when you already know what to do, which also contributes to this game's short length. This isn't a problem just with Portal, as this is something that just comes up with puzzle games and puzzles in video games as a whole. The problem specific to Portal is that when a major part of the game is taken away, that being solving the puzzles, and you combine that with an already short game, you make the game even shorter and end up making the game less impactful and enjoyable. Portal's length and lack of substantial puzzles really brings down this game for me. It feels less like a full game and more of a proof of concept that ended up getting sold. The game is still fun, sure, but I'd rather play a longer game that might have a low point or two in it than a much shorter game that is consistently good. Also, with Portal as short as it is, I feel like I'm missing out on something. Like I said, the game ends before it really gets going, and I just wanted more because I was enjoying it that much. The Still Alive version of the game does have a bit more substance to it. The game comes with a couple of additional challenge maps, as well as harder versions of some of the later levels. These challenges are some of the most creative that the game has to offer. The layouts for some of these levels are insane, and what's cooler is that new mechanics get introduced, like buttons to respawn boxes, electric traps, and light panels that you can shoot portals through. These are a blast to play, and I wish they were a part of the main game instead of just being an extra set of levels. These levels should have been added to the main game, as they would have fit right in and given the game its much needed length extension and more impact to the escape sequence. Unfortunately, the Still Alive version only adds in these challenge maps, and doesn't extend the actual story mode, but it at least provides more Portal fun. Portal is quite likely the definition of unused potential. The gameplay is solid and contains a variety of obstacles and environmental objects to build puzzles with, and there's still room for more. The game also has an impressive character and atmosphere around it, with subtle humor, small amounts of world building, and a great song to end the game with. However, the game's short length is a major setback for me. The game ends before it really begins, which makes big moments like the escape sequence less impactful, especially when most of the test chambers act as tutorials with a single portal gun. If instead of just 8 puzzles with the full portal gun, the game had, say, 20 or 25, then I think it would have had a satisfying length to it, and the betrayal by GLaDOS and the following escape sequence would have been much more impactful and satisfying. But as the game stands, it just doesn't feel like enough, which leaves me feeling disappointed after I beat the game. With all that in mind, I give Portal 15 cakes out of 19.